Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Sorry for the slight delay getting here, but yeah, we're here now. And yeah, what are we going to be doing today? Well, I asked my friend to play the game yesterday, and I watched him play, and I came up with all of these problems. So the to-do list has grown yet again. And so the goal is to be fixing as many of these problems as possible before the playtest goes live for Patreon members on Friday. So we're going to try to get through as many of these as possible during this stream. And we're going to try to do it without letting the cat derail my train of thought by meowing all the time. Come on, cat, where are you? Anyway, he's, oh, there he is. Here, come here. Okay, anyway. He wants attention, I guess. Anyway, before we get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. It is a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler, so if you're interested in that, please consider wishlisting it. And as well, we've got the Patreon here. The playtest that's going live on Friday. So what is that, the 30th of January? Oh my gosh, this cat. The playtest, which is going live on Friday, is going to be for Patreon members only for 1 week. So you could subscribe to either tier of the Patreon and you will be able to play the playtest early. But if you don't want to subscribe on Patreon, that's totally fine. The public playtest will be available for everyone the week after. So 1 week from this Friday, the playtest will go public. Everyone will be able to play it. And so yeah, you'll have a chance to play the playtest if you want to play it. No need to pay for anything. And I also have my Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. So if that sounds interesting to you, if that's something that you want to learn, definitely check it out. I would appreciate that. Every little bit helps. And thank you everyone who has supported on Patreon, who will support on Patreon, who has purchased one of my courses. Like I said, all that helps and it's very generous and I appreciate it a lot. Okay. Hello, Light Tiramisu, welcome. Kzori, welcome back. TRP, hello. Welcome, welcome. Mr. Raxit TRP, is this the same person? Hello, Bubblegum Lord, welcome, welcome. Hello, I Not Doggo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ben, good to see you. How is everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Good morning, Chris. Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's see. What do we want to work on first? So we got some bugs. Some of these bugs are going to be a little bit tricky. Let's do this. Extend. I don't care about that one. Let's put this at the very bottom here. Why is this scrolling the other? Okay, anyway. I don't know why this scrolls the other lists when I'm not hovering over them. So let me reprioritize this a little bit. So let's do... We want to do that one. Maybe we want to do that one. Grant alchemical residue based on card size. Nerf longbowman. We probably want to make that one work. Nerf that one. Buff bleed duration. Okay. And then we've got a bunch of bugs here. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to change. So one thing that I was noticing when my friend was playtesting is that he had a really hard time getting alchemical residue. And so what I want to do is I want to change the alchemical residue that you earn. So right now you earn 1 alchemical residue every time for every card that is left over after alchemy, it gets turned into alchemical residue. And that was just feeling a little bit bad for a number of reasons. One, it's like you have to do too many alchemies to unlock slots on your board. So that's one problem. And the other problem is like you may throw a big card on the board and you only get 1 residue out of it. And big cards are typically more powerful, so it feels like you're sacrificing a big card for nothing. So So like in this case, we're getting 2 alchemical residue. However, my friend had the idea to just say, well, why not award alchemical residue based on the card size? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have it based on the number of cells that the card occupies is how much residue you're going to get. So we're going to try that. I'm a little bit worried about that because it may become more appealing to just get rid of large cards rather than put large cards on the board so that you can get more residue. But we're going to try it. We're going to give it a try and we're going to see. So award residue. Let's see. Add residue. Is residue. Interesting. Anyway, so award residue. Let's see. So yeah, it would be in here, but I'm kind of curious, where is the, if I do play earned currency, I don't understand this. Earned currency set as residue. Oh, here we go. So is residue vector2.up. Okay, so we're going to probably want to change this, how these disperse, if I'm going to do multiple residue at the end of alchemy. But I think for now, what I will do is I think I can just do this. Card definition resource dot absolute occupied cells dot count. I might as well change this while I'm here. So we play earned currency set as residue. Okay. So this direction here, vector2 dot up dot rotated degrees mathutil dot rng dot randf range negative 15 15. Okay, well, let's see what that does. Hello, Wooius, welcome. Ready for another stream, Ben? Hello, Nicholas Dev, welcome back. I'm coding a debug log for my physics engine and watching you stream. Man, your stream is so calm and has a great background music. Thank you. Glad you enjoy it. Yeah, the background music is nothing special. It's just like chill music that has like royalty free, no copyright. So, but I'm glad you like it. I think it is pretty high quality, especially for being no copyright. Or it's not no copyright, it's, you know, there's no, YouTube is not gonna strike me for using it. I have the permission to use it, in other words. Usually with those kinds of tracks, they're not super great, but I think the background music is good enough. Hello, Jhar. Welcome. Good morning, TK421. I am new at your live, even though I subscribe from a year. It's because of the different time zone. Yeah, that's true. Not everyone can watch the streams because people from around the world, you know, some people are sleeping right now. So that's all right. I've not seen your multiplayer course, but do you find the high-level implementation of networking in Godot robust? I don't know if robust is the word that I would use. I think that it's relatively easy to use. There are a lot of nice things about it, but there are still certain cases where I wish it was more robust and you have to kind of like finagle your way around to make it work. And a lot of that is just because of the way that the networking works, is that when you call a remote procedure call, on one of the clients. And a remote procedure call is basically just you want to call a function on the client, but you initialize that function call from the server. The way that it works in the Godot multiplayer system is that the node paths have to exactly match. And so when I say this player node, which is at this path from the root, I want to call a function on that player node on the client. If the client does not have that exact scene structure, so it does not have that exact path, it won't be able to locate the player, for example, that the server is trying to call the function on, and it will fail. And that makes sense in the vast majority of cases. The problem is that if you want to do something like have the player connect to the server, let's say that you have like a multiplayer game in progress, right? And you want somebody to be able to join mid-match, and so you connect to the server. As soon as you connect to the server wants to start trying to synchronize everything to the client, even before the client has had a chance to get the scene structure set up so they can receive that data to begin with. And so you run into situations like that, where it's like, anytime you want to do something a little bit asynchronous, like you want to connect the player to the server first, but maybe you don't want to create the game, like the level scene for the player yet, or maybe you want to let the player change their name or whatever before they join the match, something like that. It's like as soon as the player connects to the server wants to start sending it updates, which may not be applicable because the client has not loaded the proper scene yet. So things like that can be a major headache to deal with, and that's where it becomes like not super robust. So I definitely think that there's room for improvement with the Godot multiplayer stuff. That said, I think it works just fine for like a good amount of cases. It's just, it definitely could use some work for sure. Currently working on a system for creating quests and dialogues for my game while watching in the background. Very nice. Very nice. My feedback for this playtest will hopefully be less biased since I haven't been following the stream consistently as of late. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Any and all feedback is going to be useful for sure. So that's 5 from one alchemy. If I take this, that will give me 6. So after just a couple of alchemies, I'm able to unlock everything. I'm gonna have to test the tutorial too to make sure this isn't broken. Do you have a playlist for these BGM musics? I think I have it in the description. So if you look at the description, I think I've linked to the channel or whatever. So yeah, you can check that out. Good morning, Emerson. Hello, Diginanigans. You just need to do 24-hour streams. Easy fix, yeah. Today I made my first Frogger game on my own. It felt great. Very nice. Very nice. You run into that with the multiplayer issue, yeah. So I think what I might do is, that seems good to me. However, one thing that I want to do, smaller radius. One thing that I want to do is, let's change this to 25. 25. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the cost for board unlock cell. I'm going to change this to board unlock component. I'm going to change this to 3 to unlock. And then what else? So we're increasing the cost a little bit, but you're going to get more residue, generally speaking. And I need to make sure that I didn't break the tutorial either, because there's this step in the tutorial where you need residue to unlock cells. But I think that this should be more reasonable. So I'm going to get more residue, and I slightly increase the cost of unlocking, but that should be fine, because if I do something like this, and I grab that, I'm going to get all this residue, and now I can unlock 2 cells from 1 alchemy operation. But then if I even just do 2 here, I do the alkalite and the fryer here. Oops. Even if I just do the fryer, yeah, that should work just fine. And then one thing that I want to do is I want to look for smaller radius. Play earned currency. Smaller radius true. Okay. So this smaller radius, I'm actually going to change this. Gosh. I want to create more separation between the the residue that's created. Okay, that's probably fine. I could improve that for sure, but I just want to make it look decent. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Can't really complain about that. Maybe I will increase that radius there a little bit. Now with tutorials in place, you'll forever have one additional thing that'll break whenever you make major changes. I know. That's definitely going to be the case. I just know that I'm going to make a change one of these days to the game, and it's just going to break the tutorial, and I'm not going to check it, and then it's going to be game over. But I have started investigating adding unit tests to the game. So I think, especially as I get closer to release, I am going to be writing unit tests for the more critical systems of the game. Just so that, because a lot of times when I make changes, I have to go in and manually test certain interactions to make sure I didn't break them. So it'd be nice just to be able to, have some automated tests that could give me some confidence that I didn't break anything. And also, an automated test would be a good, if I wanted to test a very specific interaction, rather than getting that all set up manually through the game, I would be able to just create that interaction in the code and then run the test there and see what happens. And then once I figure out how the interaction works, if it's working as intended, I can solidify that in a test and then have that just working the way that I need it to work. There we go. Okay, I think that works good. Okay, so we'll test that. We'll make sure that that works. Let's try the tutorial now. So we got to go to game debug, skip menu. Hello V, welcome back. Good to see you. Hello Mr. Hazy. I just got into game dev this year. I love working on code and systems, but I'm a bad artist, which deters me from working on a full project. Any advice? Yeah, I think so I think the buttons. Sorry, I gotta fix this. So yeah, if you're a bad artist, the solution to that is to become a decent artist. So I think people, for some reason, art is this thing that people just assume you're either born with art skill or you're not. And it's we don't think of any other skill like that. We don't think that, oh, you were just born with the ability to create enterprise level architecture in C#, right? It's no, you have to learn that skill. You might have a certain proclivity toward that skill. You might just naturally be a certain way that makes you able to more easily understand or learn a certain type of skill. But it's a skill like any other, and art is no different. Art still has rules. Art still has mechanics. There are still quote unquote right and wrong ways to do art, especially as a beginner. And so you just have to learn what's the right way to do it, what's the wrong way to do it, and You pick that up by learning any other skill. You look at tutorials, you watch people on YouTube who explain things, you get the fundamentals down. In the case of art, it would just be like how to represent certain shapes, how to represent 3D objects, how to do shading, color theory. All those things are very basic, right? Because if you're gonna add shading to something, for example, you don't get to like do your own shading rules. Like if you're trying to make something look real or real-ish, you can't just make up your own physics about how light works. You have to follow the rules, right? So anyway, all of that is to say that art is a skill that can be learned like any other, and you learn it the same way you learn any other skill. You find an instructor, or you find a tutorial, or you find a learning resource, and you practice it. You practice the exercises in it. You understand the concepts, the theory behind it, and through trial and error, through practicing over and over again, you'll get better at it. So yeah, I wasn't present when you made the Acolyte art. What's that around his neck? Oh, it's just like a collar. It's just like, yeah, it's just a collar around him. Good night, Mr. Raxit TRP. Thanks for joining. Hello, Dione. Welcome, welcome. Neozoid, welcome back. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. Now we're just waiting for Snupbill. We're just waiting for Snupbill to get here so that we can see the Yummers message. Does the tutorial skull have a name? Scully. His name is Scully. I need to fix him up a little bit. I think he's fine for the playtest, but so all of this is still going to work until I get to the part where I need to unlock cells. I just need to make sure that I'm getting enough alchemical residue. So I'm going to try to, during this tutorial, I'm going to try to earn the minimum number of residue possible. And I'm going to see if that is enough. So I'm going to try to earn the minimum amount of residue possible. Yeah, so if I do this, there we go. I haven't earned enough, but I guess in this case what I would do is I would use these two guys here, and I would have to do that. Now I'm hoping that the player can't brick themselves. So one other solution to this is to remove the 1x1 card from the second option there. But let's see. Here comes the cat. Hello. There's always a systematic way to learn anything, which is nice for square-headed people like myself, realizing that kind of demystifies the whole art thing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, almost always, I guess, yeah. Art is a lot like programming. Hit a roadblock and then research how to get around it. There are less than half a dozen things that can go wrong with art. You just need the vocab to Google your way out. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. And again, like, we're not trying to become, like, fine art masters, right? Like, we're not trying to become the next, you know, major, you know, Da Vinci or whatever. We're just trying to create art that is passable, that looks thematically consistent, that is drawn with some level of skill, and that can be presentable in the context of a game, right? So it doesn't need to be like, we're not trying to become these wonderful, like, jaw-droppingly talented artists. We're just trying to create something that is absolutely presentable in the case of like a commercial game, right? We're looking to create something that's just coherent, cohesive, and then drawn with some degree of competence. And that's basically all you need for a game, right? Anyway, change alchemy residue gains. So now I need to go to my tutorial seeded run, and I need to look at the rewards here. Ceremonial dagger, giant finger, lambone ring. So this is the problem here, this lambone ring. So what I may do is I may do something else. Let's see. Maybe we can give the player a scythe. So basically, I just need to make sure that if I try to earn the minimum amount of residue, that it's still going to give me enough to unlock whatever I need to unlock. I'm the artist in Global Game Jam and I suck at art. I'm not practicing. I'm scared now. It's okay. I mean, you gotta try somewhere, you know? You gotta start somewhere. There's always room for improvement. Yeah, exactly. It's practice whether or not it's intentional. Yeah. So if I try to earn the minimum amount of alchemy, try to earn the minimum amount of residue here. So I do this. That gives me residue. I'll go here. I beat this guy, beat the dog and the chicken. And then, yeah, so in this case, I could choose this. Cells in your combat board can be unlocked using alchemical residue. So I do this, I do that. So yeah, in this case, it's impossible for me to get anything less than 3. So there's my 2 residue, and then I can unlock this. But now I don't have a card to place there, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I think there's a situation where that would be necessary, because if I had chosen the giant finger instead, I could have put it across like that. So yeah, the point of the tutorial is to get players to think about like how to place the cards on their board a little bit. So yeah, anyway. So I think that change is good. So the player is going to earn more alchemical residue now, and it costs a little bit more to unlock this. But as a general rule, I think that it's going to be a lot. So my friend was having a hard time unlocking cells. Like he was well into the second region and he didn't even have all of the original cells on his board unlocked, even though he was doing alchemy very often. So I think this change, it's going to make it so that the player can get those board unlocks sooner, which will make the game a little bit easier as well, which is fine. So change cards available in tutorial. Okay, so that's done. Grant alchemical residue for each reagent used. So this is a problem here. If you use a reagent with your alchemy, what was happening is you weren't getting any residue for that. So my friend kept doing, oh, Godot crashed, very nice. My friend kept trying to like just do alchemy with reagents, expecting to get residue out, and he didn't. So that felt kind of bad. So we're gonna fix that. I'll take consistent and coherent mediocre art rather than high quality pieces that don't work together. Right, yeah. The residue and blood particles effect that occurs when you win a match or alchemy. Are they using the particle nodes? If so, how are you directing them to a specific location? Right, so that's not, those are not particles. So when I sell something and the blood goes to the blood counter, those are actually individual nodes. So if I look at my earned currency here, it's literally a node 2D with either the blood or the residue sprite. And then what I'm doing is I am just tweening it from the location that it's spawning to all the way to the UI. And it's very simple. Like a lot of these things are like, very, very straightforward. So like this is a currency display scene, and this is used in player inventory here. So look, we've got blood currency display and residue currency display. Inside of these is just a marker 2D. So this is just a node 2D with a position basically, which determines or which sets the point to which those blood or residue sprites should go. So when those tween to either the residue UI position or the blood UI position, and those are just set inside of a group. So if I look at the currency display, you can see that this is adding that marker 2D to either the residue target group or the blood target group. And that's it. So it's literally, I'm just saying like, here's the point where the thing needs to fly to, and then in the tween, I just grab that point by group name. And that's it. So like a lot of these things are just very, very straightforward. Like there's nothing special happening here. It's just, you know, very, very straightforward. It's like the brute and straightforward way to do it, but it works, you know? His name is Scully. Now I want to have him have a sidekick named Mulder. I don't get that reference. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway. So we need to grant alchemical residue for each reagent used. So if I use this amber with this sign here and the pond, the amber gets consumed, but it doesn't give me residue. So I don't know how exactly I'm going to do that. I think if I go to my alchemy container, let's see, set alchemy output cards. So this handle pressed. Alchemy output, new cards, alchemize cards, increase board size, shoot, get outputs. Non-reagent input cards. Do I have reagent input cards? So I basically need to know how many reagents there were. Non-reagent input cards. Where is this called? This alchemized cards is called where? Here? I actually don't know how I'm going to do this. Because I have that burn away animation for the residue, which will grant it, but I don't have that in this case. What I could potentially do, I don't actually know. Interesting. I mean, I could just invisibly grant. I don't need to necessarily do an animation. I could just like take the input cards and just take the input cards, if they're reagents, just give alchemical residue based on that reagent. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So one thing I could do is, oh, am I doing alchemized cards? Oh, I'm freeing the card twice. I don't think I need to do this. These are the input cards. Those are being freed. Do I want to do the freeing in here? I probably don't, so let's get rid of that. And then we could just do this. Yeah, I just don't know where to put this animation, I guess. Because I could put it here. I could do currency manager dot add residue. And then we have two methods, animate from position. So what I could do is I could say var non, or let's do reagent residue is equal to cards dot where x dot get tags dot has flag reagent card tag dot reagent, and then we're going to do dot sum card definition resource absolute occupied cells dot count. Cool. And then what I can do is I could say reagent residue, and then from position, I believe this is a global position. From position, yeah. So the from position can be like from the pot, I guess. So if I look at my alchemy drawer, let's see, alchemy container, pot back, visuals. I guess I could just do like visuals.position, visuals.global position. So I really don't know if that's going to look good or not, but we'll see. X-Files. Oh, it's X-Files. I don't really watch TV, so I don't get TV references. Didn't get it until Firebase said it out loud. When did you start this project? The actual one, not the prototypes. Well, I don't know how to draw a distinction between the actual game and the prototypes. I think the prototyping was part of the game, and I started that in March. March last year. So we're approaching a year of development. I think it's what, 10 months? Yeah, something like 10 months. So almost a year in. And, you know, a lot of this, I think this game, like the way that it's built right now, could be built in like 6 months. The problem is that, you know, I'm not a very skilled game designer, so I have to keep redoing systems, which adds obviously a lot to the iteration speed of the game. But yeah, 10 months or so. The Scully and Mulder are the deuteragonists of the X-Files series. Interesting, okay. I'm 32 now, so when I was 6, the X-Files was on TV. I only remember it because the intro music terrified me. Interesting. I'm not far behind you. I'm 31, so I guess my parents just never watched X-Files. Why are you coding in C# instead of GDScript? Is the game in Unity? No, it's Godot. I'm using C# because I like it more. Welcome, by the way. Ariane. Welcome, welcome. It's time for game dev once again. Yes, indeed. Welcome, Jackie Daytona. Good to see you. Okay. Let's see if this works. So let's see. Oh yeah, I've got my one residue there. Interesting. So, I don't really like how that's being presented. I don't really like how that's being presented. So if I do this, it just kind of like pops out of there. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to put the reagent gained residue in terms of the animation here. I mean, one thing that I could do potentially is I could do a different animation for it where when you input the cards, so like when you input the reagents, instead of going into the pot, what they could do is they could just like go out in front of the pot and burn away and send the residue and still count toward, you know, your input or whatever. I think that that would be good. I don't want to give the player the impression though that those cards are being deleted and they're not being used in alchemy, so I don't know if I want to burn them away before they get added to the alchemy. One thing I could do, I suppose, is I could... And I don't want them to be present in outputs either, because the whole point is that the reagents get mixed in with everything. So I don't want to burn them away before they get added to the pot, and I don't want them to be present after the pot finishes its animation. So the question is, where in the world do I put this residue gain stuff for the reagents? Things are much simpler once you know the complete solution, which you never do. Yeah. It's so funny how you get the C# question multiple times every day. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, you know, new people roll into the stream and they haven't seen my work before, they haven't been here, and so, you know, it's reasonable for those questions. Should have an FAQ? I do, but it's actually just harder. It's harder to point people to the FAQ than it is to answer the question. That's the thing. Because I say, oh, well, that's like somebody comes in with a C# question. I say, oh, well, that's a frequently asked question. Go to firebelly.com/FAQ. And it's like, or I could just, in the same breath, with the same effort, answer the question. You know, so it's like the FAQ doesn't really solve it, unfortunately. I'm new to Godot, so I was confused when I saw C#. Yeah, no worries. Welcome to the stream, by the way. I once lost a week of progress on a CAD project, but a lot of the time was just trying to figure out how to fit things together. Remaking it took an afternoon. Interesting. People rarely interact with FAQs, even if they do exist. That's true, too. I think you said on the first stream this project would take 6 months to be done. Yeah, we're way past that. We're way past that. I think this project could be made in 6 months if I knew what I was doing, but, you know, we're going to see. I'm going to try really hard to have the game out before within the first half of the year. And I think we're close to being able to do that, because the main things are I need a save and load system, I need a meta progression system, I need multiple playable characters, I need gamepad support, and just the rest of the content. And I think those are the main things that need to be done. So hopefully I can get that done in a very reasonable amount of time. I have an irrational dislike for Python-like languages, so I appreciate the C#. White space shouldn't matter. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. You could add an animation where the reagents dissolve and have particles drip down into the pot before the other cards are added. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, that could work. I could also just have them emit the residue when they get into the pot the first time. Maybe that would be the thing to do. So like this plops into the pot and then it immediately spits out a residue. Let me see if I can do that. I don't want to do like a super complicated animation right now, because I mostly just want to see if this is going to work. That's alchemy output. Where in the world? Here. So in here, what I can do is I could say if card.getTags.hasFlag cardTag.reagent. Then what I can do is I can do this. Reagent residue This is going to be card definition resource absolute occupied cells.count. So we'll do it there instead. Let's see what that does. So making Alkaloids 2 should take a month tops. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I agree. It's a simple question. Just find it funny. Yeah, it is. It is kind of funny, entertaining. But here, you know, the whole reason I'm streaming, I'm here for your entertainment. If I'm not entertaining you, if I'm not making you laugh, if I'm not making you roll your eyes, then what good am I? Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's always very generous. And we have the message yummers. We were all waiting for that, weren't we? Welcome back, Snupbill. Always good to see you. Yummers. It could be made in 6 months. How many 6 months? That's true. How many 6 months? Okay, that's okay, I guess. Also, it would be cool to have multiplayer localization and Walmart integration before. No. That looks okay, I think. I wonder if I want to change add residue. Let's see. Play earned currency. Currency effect node add child, yeah. So I don't know about that. Agree and I semicolon my GD script. Oh, interesting. Why Godot? The most best question. Because Godot is the most best engine, obviously. No, I think Godot is like perfect for what I'm trying to do. I'm just making small little 2D games. Not to say that Godot can't be used to make larger games. It's just like it's got all of the out-of-the-box functionality that I need. It's really easy to work in. I think the scene tree system is very intuitive once you get the hang of it. And yeah, I just like it. I just like it. I'm just here for the WFC jokes. Yeah. Do you go back to your older systems after you have coded it, even if they work just fine? No, typically not. Typically not. I tend to leave things alone if they don't actively need work. Now, if I need to extend a system in any sort of meaningful way, and it's not written in a way, or it's not structured in a way that allows me to extend it easily, then I'll rewrite it at that point. But yeah, for a lot of the systems, it's just like, if it's working, don't touch it, right? Don't fix what ain't broke. Don't fix what ain't broke. I'm not really entirely happy with this, but yeah, that just doesn't look right. Shoot. Shoot. What am I going to do about this? Okay, let's try a different approach then to this. I wish Godot had a different word than scene, since it's really more of a reusable object, not necessarily visual. Not a big deal, though. Yeah, I mean, I understand, because it's, you know, a scene is basically just a collection of nodes, and it doesn't necessarily... I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, a scene kind of calls to mind something visual, where a scene is not necessarily visual. So, yeah, I understand that. I love scenes in Godot. The only thing I get confused around is what it requires to be a scene and what can just be used as an object. Yeah. Yeah, scene is basically anything that needs to end up in the scene tree needs to be a scene or a node. And anything that doesn't need to be in the scene tree doesn't need to be a scene or a node. Now, why would something need to be in the scene tree? Well, for example, input handling. The inputs are propagated through the scene tree, so if you need to handle input, then you need to have a scene or a node to do that. If you want to draw something to the screen, well, I guess that's not technically true because you can hook into the rendering server as well and the physics servers directly, so you could probably get away. But I think the rendering is still tied to the scene tree in some way, so anyway, I think that's the general rule. So in here, what the heck? So I think what I might do instead is I might, when we do the output cards, oh wait, wrong one, wrong place. Set alchemy output cards. Set alchemy output cards. Here, I was not expecting this to take that long. Play legendary drop animation, play drop animation. What I could do is I could say, oh no, I'd have to include the reagent cards in the output to do this. I was thinking I could have the reagents come out of the output and burn up. I don't know what to do about this. I really don't know how to handle this. I don't have a good way of animating these things. I was thinking I could make them part of the output cards here, but then I'd need to go in here and I'd need to include those outputs. Yeah, I don't really know what to do here. Well, we've got a bunch of other stuff to do. I don't want to get stuck on this, so I'm not going to worry about this. What I am going to do is I'm just going to take this out of here. x.getTags.has flag card tag.reagent .sum, and then we're just going to remove the position, so it's not going to animate anymore. It's just going to increment the number with no animation. I don't like that, but I'm just getting stuck on this issue, and I don't feel like getting stuck on what is just a visual issue right now. So anyway, reagent residue, so we'll just sum up all the reagent residue, and we'll just go ahead and immediately add that. And that should be fine for now. So now if I do this, I should see 2 residue. Yeah, so it just increased my residue by 2. So yeah, I mean, I might not even need an animation for that, but it would be nice to indicate to the player that they've gotten residue from those reagents, but it's all right. Okay, add residue for reagents consumed. All right, that's done. So we have a couple of other things here. Make shops a bit more common. We want to nerf the longbowmen, buff the bleed duration. And then we've got a bunch of bugs too. So we'll put this one down here. So let's make shops a bit more common. So one of the problems is my friend ended up having a lot of blood left over, especially by the second region. And there was like no shops in the vicinity. So I think the shops are a little bit too rare. Run map generator. I think the shops are a little bit too rare. So here's the loot table for the shops. We've got grow board, max health, enchant, upgrade card. Let me see, do I have any additional rules about the shop? Let's see. Nodes within radius, looking for 4 nodes within radius. If nearby nodes within radius intersect, removing event type shop, okay. Do I also have place guaranteed event? Oh, interesting. Min count, distribution spacing. So there's a couple of ways to increase the commonality of shop. I could increase increase the weight in the loot table, or I could increase the minimum number of shops placed. Maybe I'll start by increasing the minimum number of shops. So we've got a minimum artifact count of 4, we've got a minimum shop count of 6, minimum grow board count of 5, and minimum booster of 10. I almost think all of these numbers need to change. I'm going to bump artifact up to 6. I'm going to bump shop up to 10. Grow board is going to be bumped up to 8. And booster can stay there, I guess. So let's see. So just increasing the number, like the minimum number in the board, I think is going to be good. Debug fog reveal radius 300. So now we can take a look at this and see what's going on here. All right, so we've got an artifact there, we've got a shop there, we've got another artifact there. Do we have a grow board event somewhere? There's a shop there. So look, how many shops are there? There's 2 shops in the starting region. And there's, what, a couple of artifacts in the starting region as well? There's 2 shops. I haven't seen a grow board event yet. There's one. There's another one. Let's see, output. Let's see, grow board, there's 9 grow boards. There's 30 boosters. How many total? Well, that's fine. Max health 13. Enchant 15. Artifact 6. 20 reagents, 10 shops. 9. There's only 9 upgrade cards in this whole thing. Interesting. Combat obelisk. I think the obelisk is a little bit common. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Artifact 3, booster 20. Upgrade card. Enchant. Max health. Grow board. Reagent. Okay. Exclusion sets. List of hash set run map node. Min count. Valid candidates, exclusion sets. Set contains n. What? Valid candidates, remove all. I don't understand this. A list of hash set run map node. We're adding exclusion zone, exclusion sets add. What? Why is this a list? Valid candidates is equal to nodes to assign, where node to possible event types contains event type. Okay. Update entropy for placed node. Wait a minute. Something's wrong here. This is not being called. For each var node in nodes with assigned type. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. So this place guaranteed event, that's going to assign the types, nodes to assign except with placed nodes. Okay, got it. So this is basically getting all of the nodes that are unassigned, where the possible event types contains the event type that I'm placing. I still don't know why this exclusion set is here. Valid candidates.remove all. Exclusion sets.any set contains n. Valid candidates is a list of run map node. We're removing all the elements where the node is in the exclusion set. Why is this a list of hash set though? I don't understand that. That's not... Why? This is like, what is this? What is this? This could be a hash set. This can go away. We're already adding the plash. What? Run map. Oh, I see. Wait a minute. This exclusion zone. This place nodes can be a hash set for sure. Doesn't matter, I guess. This exclusion zone, okay, so it's a hash set of all of the connections within depth. Get connections within depth. Okay, I see. So we're removing all the valid candidates that are within a certain radius, the distribution spacing of this. And we're adding the node itself here as well. So, okay. The question still remains, why is this a list of hash sets? This can just be a hash set here. I don't know, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but that's all right. I think that's the same thing, because it's a hash set. It doesn't need to be a list of separate zones. It's just like any node here that is in the exclusion set because of its proximity to the one that we're placing. Yeah, I don't know why that was that way. Anyway, scenes are serialized node trees in essence. I've also thought there should be a better name for it. New question, what is the importance of the scene tree? The scene tree is basically how the whole game runs. That's where all of your nodes exist. Prefab in Unity is also confusing. Can't think of a better name myself, at least a snappy. Scene tree is technically the main data structure that Godot main loop uses to drive your game. You're right, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Okay, so it looks like the shops are more common. The increased board size is a little bit more common. Let's see, are there any obelisks? There's an obelisk. There's an obelisk. Okay. Just making some minor tweaks to this. I think the shops are more common now. So there's 11 shops, 18 reagents. Why is there so few upgrade cards? I don't understand that. Upgrade card. What if I just bump this up to 15 so it's the same as reagent? There shouldn't, like, there's 300 total notes. There shouldn't be just like, okay, 20 upgrade cards is a little bit more reasonable. So we've got 12 shops, 15 reagents, 9 obelisks, 11 max health increases, 8 grow boards, 7 enchants. Only 7 enchants. Maybe I'll just tone this down a little bit and we'll make enchant. Max health, grow board. I'm not placing any guaranteed. I'm not placing any guaranteed max health. I'm not placing any guaranteed enchants. Well, let's see. I don't want to tweak this too much because the playtest is coming out very soon. Think your code might benefit from a comment or two? No, absolutely not. Past me is always trying to wreck my day. Always wanted to ask Firebelly, did you receive my game for code review? I'm excited and nervous. I did, yeah, but there's a lot of things in the code review, so... Anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. I'm getting a phone call right now, and when we come back, we will fix all this stuff. So give me 3 minutes, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, all right. So what are we doing here? We're taking a look at the map stuff. 11 upgrade cards. That doesn't sound right to me. I think there's like 300 nodes. So 3% of nodes are upgrades. Combat is 106, so that's like 30% of nodes. Reagent, 21 reagents. So it may be a good idea. Let's see. It may be a good idea to... Let's put this down a little bit. I think it might be a good idea to place at least some guaranteed events. That will bump up the number, I think. So if I do place guaranteed event type dot upgrade card, then I said like place 5 of them, and then I did place guaranteed event type dot enchant, and I just said place 5 of those as well. I think that would just increase the number, even though the weight isn't changing, because I'm placing guaranteed amounts of those things, right? So let's see. So we've got 16 upgrade cards, we've got 13 enchants, only 9 max healths. I think that's okay though. I don't want there to be a whole lot of max health upgrades on the board. But those might benefit from having some guaranteed placement as well. Let's do 5 of those. We're going to change upgrade card and enchant to 10 each. Booster 10. Well, maybe we'll do 8. I'm placing 10 shops on the map, is that right? Nine grow boards, 17 max health, 13 enchant, 18 upgrade card, 10 shops, 19 reagents. I don't know if I like... Let's do 5 shops here, and then let's also do... Oh, the shop has a weight of 8. Interesting. So the shop is almost never being chosen. Okay, well, we can turn this back up to 10 at least. We'll leave that alone. Okay, this should balance out the game a little bit more. I hope that doesn't make it too easy now. Let's see. Still plenty of combats. Just got some more upgrade opportunities, I suppose. Let's see how many combats. Still 100, so still roughly 30% of the nodes are combat nodes, which is good. The one thing that I wanted to play around with too, especially as I add more event types, is I wanted to make it so that not every map that's generated will have every event type. So obviously there will have to be event types that are common to every map, like reagents and boosters and combats and stuff like that. But I could see it being the case that not every map has an obelisk on it, right? I could see it being the case even that not every map has a grill board, so that you're very restricted in terms of your board size. I could see it being the case that, you know, as I add these new event types, there's like, maybe I could say, for example, let's say that I have 24 different event types, right? I could say, okay, every map is only going to have 12 unique event types. And so if I've got 24 possible event types, that means that I will be choosing only half of them to include during the map generation. And I think that will help to create, number one, more replay value, because not every map is going to have every potential event. But number two, it's going to make the maps a lot easier to balance, because if I have 24 events, it's going to be really hard to pack all of those into a single map in a way that makes it satisfying to play, because then I'll have the problem of there will either be too many or too few of the events that the player wants to interact with. So if I just reduce the total number of possible events that can be generated on a map, then you can get like your fill of each of those 12 and have the benefit of potentially getting new events on the next map, right? So that's something that I'm considering doing, but we'll see. Would it be worth it to write up a test script to run your map gen code a number of times and output an average amount generated for each type? I have that. I just, I'm not using it right now. I have that. So if I go to my project settings, enable run map statistics. I forgot where that's used. Let's see. Enable run map statistics. Is run map statistics enabled? Seeded run.test. This does 1,000 iterations. Oh, but this is only looking at the combat stuff, so I haven't built out anything beyond that, but I have that framework in place. I could add more statistics to that, but I'm also just printing here and looking at the general output. I think this is probably fine. I'm gonna have to do some more play testing myself, but I think those changes are fine. That should even out the map a little bit. Slight tweaks to map gen. Okay. I actually just want to review those changes that I made here. Yeah, okay. So that's good. Make shops a bit more common. I think that's okay. Nerf longbowmen. That's something that I want to fix. I think the longbowman is a little bit hard, and I think that's mostly due to this additional damage here. This additive scalar here. We're just gonna do ability scalars. Yeah, so let's do damage scalar. This is damage scalar, and this one will be damage scalar as well. So previously the longbowman was doing 2 damage per empty tile around him, and that was scaling way too hard. So you were getting up, like, it was adding 2 every time. So if the longbowman had 3 empty cells around him, at a base level he'd be doing 6, right? But that would double from 6 to 12 if he went up 1 tier, which is a lot. So instead now, instead of doubling, it will go up from 6 to 9, which is a little bit more reasonable, I think. And then it will go from 9 to 12, so on and so forth. So I think that's okay. I just noticed that this was a little bit overtuned as an enemy card for when my friend was playing. So we nerfed the longbowman. There was a moment where my friend was playing the game. The longbowman crit him for 140, so just killed him in 1 hit, and I was like, oh my gosh. Now that ended up being a problem with the rabbit foot. The rabbit foot, what this does is this increases critical chance and critical multiplier of like an adjacent minion, I think it is. But this was being applied while the longbowman was paralyzed. And so what ended up happening is the rabbit ended up stacking these buffs 2 or 3 times on the longbowman. And then the longbowman ended up having like a 3 or 4 critical multiplier. So it just hit him for 140 as a crit. It was kind of funny. But I fixed that issue with the rabbit foot. Now the rabbit foot can only target, where is that? It can only target cards that don't have any turn disabling debuffs. So in other words, any cards that are currently active are the only cards that can receive the buff. Anyway, that was just a tangent. Buff bleed duration. Bleed is not super powerful, and the reason why it's not super powerful is because it falls off after 5 turns. So this turn duration here, what I want to do is I'm just going to bump this up. This is going to last for 10 turns now. And I also need to do my ability explanations. Bleed. Each application of bleed decays after 10 turns. So that should hopefully make bleed a little bit more useful. Because right now, basically the way bleed works is that anytime a card executes within the bleed window, it takes damage equal to bleed. So for instance, while I have bleed on, let's say I have 3 bleed up. Oops. Let's say that I have 3 bleed up. Any card that executes while that bleed is in place will cause 3 damage to the board. But the problem is that the timing is really weird, right? So if it's only a 5-turn window, which is very quick, and if no cards or very few cards execute in that 5-turn window, bleed may actually end up basically doing nothing. And so by increasing the bleed window from 5 to 10, it should hopefully be a little bit easier to get some use out of your bleed builds. So here, yeah, it should hopefully make this a little bit nicer. So yeah, I think that's fine. So bleed is now going to last for 10 turns. Increase bleed duration. Okay. I am doing pathfinding algorithm, and I don't know what is the best way to get player position. Do you know a good method? I don't know. Like, I don't know what the context is. Why do you need the player position? Where are you trying to get the player position from? Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to get the player position. The way that I usually do it is I just stick the player in a group, and then I find the first node in that group, and then get that node's position. Just a quick question, but how many monitors do you have? I currently only have a laptop screen. I have 2 1440p monitors. And welcome back to the stream, or welcome to the stream, Holiday Dev. Good to see you. Is there a way to increase the bleed duration during a run in Artifact Baby? There is not, but we can definitely consider doing that. Artifacts. Increase bleed duration. Okay, what is the next thing that we need to do here? So that's done. All right. Let's fix this one. This button text is white on activation. I think that should be an easy one to fix. Yeah, so let's go to the colors here. Button. Font hover pressed color. This needs to be that. Yeah, I think that works. Nope, it's still white. Why is it still white? Font pressed color. These buttons are not very good generally, but I just wanted to fix that color because it was violating my rule. Violating my rule for having only colors on the screen be part of the color palette. Fix button font pressed color. So that was just a very minor thing, but very important nonetheless. Okay, let's see what we could do. Adding echo via alchemy causes echo to be in between negative abilities. Negative abilities should always be last. So, right. Let's do this. Project, settings, bat head. So any abilities that are added via alchemy are being kind of like included within the negative ability list of the, Failed to place card as a result of board resize. Why did you fail to place the card? Oh, because we're full up. Interesting. We will get rid of the scythe, I suppose. So yeah, so basically what I'm talking about is when I get the negative abilities accrued on the card, it tends to not work that well. And of course I didn't get any negative abilities here, that's all right. Acolyte, Friar, well, let's not use everything, I guess. Critical chance reduced by 25%. So if I take this, put this back on the board, put the bat head on. Right, so that echo is like in between the negative abilities, which I don't want. So let's go to the alchemy manager here. And let's see, get outputs, get randomized output. Negative abilities to preserve. Abilities from reagents. Yeah, so this is just... Yeah, I don't even know why this is here. Let's just put this there. Negative abilities to preserve. Abilities from reagent. Reserved abilities. Yeah, that should work. Add composed ability. Yeah, all right. So let's try this again. So just changing the order of that should fix it. But let's just go ahead and try it again. Grab the frog. Do this. Okay, put this here, put the bat head there. There we go. So now echo is above the negative abilities there. Cool. Okay, that is reasonable, I think. So alchemy added abilities added before negatives. All right, that should work. Now I have a problem here. Echo appears not to be working with Convert Shield to Fire. Skull Tower plus Convert Shield to Fire plus Echo is not working. So let's figure that out. Yeah, I'm gonna need to test this for sure. Generate test map, training dummy. Let's go ahead and construct that card exactly. So if I go to my run manager, populate player cards. That's what I did so far. I thought getting the player from a group would not be the best option. No, it's all right. As long as you're properly handling the case where the player's not in the group. So you have to assume, it's good to assume that whenever you're doing a, get nodes in group call, you can't make any assumptions about whether you're going to have the data that you're looking for. So as long as you're just handling the case where like the player is null or something, I think it's totally fine. Why was there not enough blood? Error message. Alchemy costs blood. So if you don't have the proper amount of blood, you can't do alchemy. Player inventory.board inventory component.try place card at next available position. Var skull tower is equal to card factory.create card. Card registry, well, let's see, card ID, create card from ID. Card ID.skull tower. Owned by player true. Skull tower.add composed abilities. We're going to do new. Let's see. Convert shield to fire. What is it? It's the dragon scales. Alchemy added ability. Let's just do this, I suppose. I'm just going to copy and paste. All this is going to go away. I just need to set up the test. So composed, convert shield to fire, and then I need echo. Ability builder dot echo. Okay, try place card at next available position. Skull tower. Okay, let's see what that does. So for some reason this wasn't working. Okay, you just added blood when you noticed. Yeah, I have a debug hotkey that gives me blood and residue, so I don't need to, like if I hit F3 here, I just get a bunch of currency. And that is disabled in the full game, so don't even try it. So this should be applying... Okay, that worked that time. Right, so look at that. It only did 7. So I think what it's doing is it's targeting the conversion. It's targeting the conversion ability and setting that as the thing that it's redoing, but that's not right. Get all combat executable composed abilities. X is not non-combat composed ability. This is a composed ability, new ability magnitude modifier. This is, okay, so this is, oh shoot. How am I going to determine that this shouldn't echo? I mean, do I want... Let's see. Because this ability is kind of special in that when it executes, it doesn't do anything. Like it has no execution. It's just basically like a listener. So whenever damage comes in or whenever an ability comes in, what the ability magnitude modifier does is that it can modify the magnitude of an ability. So it can increase the magnitude, or it could say, hey, this ability type is damage, so I'm going to convert it to bleed, you know? And so that's fine. The problem is that when echo goes, it's like targeting this sometimes as an ability that can echo. So that's not ideal. Convert damage to bleed enchant. I think the way that I might do this is I might just add a flag onto the base card ability. So if I go to my base, let's see, base card ability. Or maybe it needs to be base composed ability. Maybe I should do it in here. Public bool can echo. Get private set. Maybe I don't want to do that. Set it to true by default. And then if I go to my echo here, where else is this used? Oh, that's okay. So get all combat executable abilities. Well, I get all combat executable abilities. Modifier abilities, flat composed abilities of type I ability modifier. Okay. Select composed abilities recursively. Func base composed ability. Bool additional filter. And additional filter. Additional filter dot invoke is X is not equal to false. Okay. So now in echo here, what I can do is I can say my additional filter X dot can echo. Okay. So now when I go to my, so I've got my base composed ability here. Composed ability. What we're going to do is I have this composed ability. We've got this non-combat composed ability. I'm going to set can echo equals false in here. Oh, I need to change this to protected. No, it's public. What am I doing? Why can't I set this? Oh, because it's right. Protected set. Okay, so we're going to set can echo to false by default in the non-combat composed ability. This extends composed ability, right. So do I want to have an ability configuration? Do I want to do public bool can echo get init? So I want to be able to support that in my ability configuration array here. And then what I can do is I could say can echo is equal to ability config can echo, otherwise just the existing value of can echo. So if the ability config is providing this flag, we will if the ability config is providing that flag so it's not null, we'll set the can echo to that. Otherwise, we'll just set it to whatever the current value is. Okay, so now the thing is I need to find all the cases where dragon scales. I need to find all the cases where this is being used. There are 67 viewers right now. Well, 74 now on my end. Quite a few viewers. I'm happy. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you all are finding these streams entertaining and or useful. So while I'm thinking about it, again, I'm working on Alchemortis. The playtest for this game is coming out on Friday for Patreon members, but it will be available to everyone the week after the Patreon member early access period. So definitely check out the Patreon if you're interested, but you don't have to pay for anything. There's no FOMO here. I'm not doing the FOMO thing. So the playtest is going to be playable by everyone always whenever I run a playtest. So, and then of course, as we get closer to release, I'll put out a demo on the Steam page, and the demo will be downloadable by anyone at any time if you want to try the game. And yeah, but you can support me with Patreon if you want to. There's a couple of other good perks there as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to get the playtest out. I think it's gonna be fun. Converts. So I need to basically look for where I'm converting things, or I can look for this ability magnitude modifier. So ability magnitude modifier. Basically, anywhere where I have this, can echo equals false. Yeah, so anything that's this ability magnitude modifier, can echo equals false. I just need to put this in here. I kind of don't like doing this because now I have to manually keep track of these abilities that can not echo, but I have a plan to redo this ability magnitude modifier system as well. So, I mean, yeah, I need to figure out a better way of doing this, I think, but anyway, so I have the ability to specify abilities that cannot echo anymore. So now I can do can echo equals false here. And hopefully what that does is that prevents echo from targeting those abilities, which should be good. Anyone who is serious about learning Godot should be subscribing for the courses alone. Thank you, Jhar. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've got the Udemy courses down there, all that good stuff. So lots of stuff for everyone to check out. All right, let's see. So this should be applying 14 fire every time. Okay, that appears to be working. So I think I must have just gotten unlucky before because it looked like when I found this issue, it was only applying 7 fire every time. So I wonder if I just got unlucky and the echo was just targeting this ability every time. But now that should be excluded from consideration. So this should be much more reliable. Man, nothing feels worse in this game than you set up a card and you're like, oh man, this is going to work really good. And then there's a bug or some kind of weird interaction and it doesn't work the way that it should have worked. That feels so bad. So I'm glad I caught this at least. I'm sure there's probably a couple more situations in the game like that, but that's what the playtest is for. If you see any weird interactions or anything that's not working as it should be, definitely let me know so I can investigate and fix those things. There is a very weird bug here, which we're going to move on to fixing very soon. Let me just commit all of this. So we tested this, so this can go away. I guess I can just discard that. So can echo, can echo, can echo, can echo. Can echo, can echo. I'm actually never using this, so we'll just get rid of that. No sense in having that if I'm not using it anywhere. Okay, let me just build to make sure that is indeed the case, that I'm not using that anywhere. Okay, cool. Add can echo flag to composed abilities. Cool. All right then. So that's fixed. That feels good. All right, so we've got another big bug to work on. If leech ability deals damage and holy damage is applied, which kills the player, but the leech heal kicks in, the player will be dead with a non-zero health. So basically what's happening is that this happened specifically with relation to the leech ability, which if I look at leech, there's a lifesteal here. So what's happening is, I've got two different abilities in leech. This is kind of like a lifesteal ability. It's a damage ability and a heal ability. So what happens is, when this executes, wait a minute. Yes, this is a base composed ability. So, this is done completely wrong. I think I need to redo this, generally speaking. Maybe not. I mean, it's okay. But anyway, so I'm calculating which damage is going to be remaining after the shield. So after the damage gets applied, and then I'm setting the heal ability magnitude here. What is this used for? I guess that's just data that I have from my history system. Anyway, so that leech ability, when this damage gets triggered, it is triggering the holy status. So if I look at holy here, it's triggering the holy status, which so basically the way that the holy status works is whenever damage is received, so this on damaged here, so this status component on damaged, oops, that's not what I wanted, find all references. So if the health component, so if the enemy is not dead, then it's going to pass along to the status component this on damaged call with the execution context, damage context, etc. It's going to go into the individual base status on damaged. In this case, this would be the holy status. The holy status is going to reflect some damage back to the player. And if that kills the player, then this leech lifesteal, this heal will kick in immediately after that. So basically, you can imagine like this is the player damage here, and then in this order of operations here, the holy deals damage to player, sets health to 0, but then this heal ability kicks in and sets the health to a non-zero value. So I think what I need to do is I almost need to interrupt the card execution. So if I go to my base card here, is auto-resolving, is card executing turn, execution context. Is there a way to determine if the player's dead here? Execute abilities, should end life cycle. I think what I can do in here is I can do if execution context dot turn executive component dot should end. Am I doing anything with this? Should end life cycle. This is a private bool. Okay. Execute abilities. So really the problem is that I'm calling execute abilities here, but the problem is that the player could die during the execution of its abilities as a result of something like the holy status happening. Now, there's a number of ways to fix this. One, I can try to inject this should end life cycle into this execute abilities. And then as I'm iterating over the abilities, what I can do is just check that. So if I'm doing execution context, should end life cycle, then I can just break out of this, right? And that should stop the execution of abilities. So I basically just, as soon as I detect that the combat is over, then that will end the execution of all the abilities. I don't know if I want to do that. The other option would be to do something like this holy status here. I could do this maybe in a deferred way. So I could only process this damage after the current card is done running. But I don't want to do that either, because then that kind of like, there's a very logical ordering to the game. And so when it says that, you know, for example, holy will deal damage to the enemy whenever this board receives damage, that is a very specific order, right? So the order is player damages enemy, enemy immediately damages with holy damage back to the player. And so that could happen in the middle of the player or the player card executing all of its abilities. And so I think the thing to do is to handle that properly instead of trying to defer it or like try to work around it in some other way. So I think the main problem is just that I don't have any logic for breaking out of the execution list of abilities if the player or the enemy has died during the execution of those abilities. Now, the one thing that I have to be careful of is there any case where not finishing the execution of an ability would end up being bad? I don't think so, but let me think. Are there any instances where if I interrupted a chain of abilities, something would break horrendously? Let me look at this. Permanent fire growth. Yeah. So here's a case where it would break. So all right, so let's say, so this is a legendary ability, and basically what it does is it grows the amount of fire that's applied every time it applies, or every time it goes. So every time this ability is executed, it increases the fire damage by 1. And let's say that I have an enemy that retaliates with some kind of damage whenever fire is applied to it. What would happen is, let's say that I apply this fire here, and then the enemy retaliates and deals damage to the player. The player would die before this execution count provider ticks up. And so that's a very edge case, but this would actually not increment the count because this execution list would be interrupted. So there's a couple of options to deal with that. One, I can just ignore that supreme edge case and just say, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The other option is I can potentially reverse the order where I am counting the execution up first. So that always finishes before like fire is applied. And then the other option is I could again introduce a flag that basically says whether or not an ability should be interrupted if the life cycle is ending. So in other words, as I'm going through this base card list of abilities to execute, I can say, okay, if this ability should not execute if the life cycle is over. The life cycle being just like the turn, right? So the life cycle ends, the whole turn orchestration ends whenever the enemy or the player gets to 0 health. And so what I could do is I could say, well, here's all the abilities that can finish executing when the life cycle is over, and here's all the abilities that can't execute when the life cycle is over. That is an option I could do as well. And then the abilities that can't execute when the life cycle is over would be the basic abilities like damage, poison, anything that kind of like directly impacts the status of the enemy board or the player board. So things like damage, heal, poison, holy, shield, all of those things would be abilities that can't execute when the life cycle is over. But things like this execution count provider, I still want that to track up as long as this ability has started executing to begin with, right? As long as this composed ability has started executing, I want it to execute so that it can properly account for the, so like if, for example, in this position right here, after the dynamic fire goes, the player dies, I could say, well, okay, we're going to keep executing all these abilities as long as they are allowed to execute when the life cycle is over. So that might be the way to do it. And that would be relatively easy because I basically just need to go to like my fire and stuff. So let's see. Fire, heal, holy, poison, shield, speed, like all of these things would be things that cannot execute when the life cycle is over. The problem is I need to keep track of that and like go through each of these. But here's the thing, like these were all abilities, right? All of these files, these are all abilities, technically speaking, but a lot of these abilities are just providing data. So for instance, if I look at my board max health provider, this is an ability, which means that it can be executed. But when it executes, all it's doing is it's just storing the max health of whatever board I'm looking for. All that's doing is storing that in a max health value. And then it's implementing this iAbility value provider interface, which basically requires an implementation of get value. And it's just returning that health value. So whether or not this gets executed after the life cycle ends is like kind of a non-issue, because all this is doing is this is just fetching data. So if like the life cycle ends and then, oh no, this card executes, oh no, the max health value has been updated, but that's it. You know, it's like, it's not a big deal. So I may end up going that way. What I really don't want to end up with is like, I could just interrupt the execution of the abilities just flat out as soon as I need to. But then again, I have this edge case where this execution count provider won't tick up even though the fire has been applied. And that kind of bothers me. So, Yeah, I may need to introduce another flag here. I have to get back to work, but I just wanted to say thanks for the content. I'm a long-time software dev trying to do some game dev, and I appreciate your content over others, so thanks. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your message. I appreciate that. And Sue Ryan, I hope that's how I say it properly, but thanks for joining the stream. Hope to see you in the next one. I have a pre-death state and on death state that I can check for abilities to do something about it. Hello, Ataxic. I won't be able to watch for long, unfortunately. That's okay. My game is a bit different. I don't have turns, so battles are just always continuous. Interesting, okay. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to, unfortunately, just flag what abilities can execute post life cycle. Yeah, so I think that's the approach that I'm going to take, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll figure that out. I think this is going to be a relatively easy thing to do. It's just like adding these flags in places, just kind of, you know, it's just kind of, you know, it's just extra data to manage. But I think that's okay. Because there's only a handful of cards that really can actually affect the health of the boards. And so if I just exclude those from being able to execute post life cycle end, then it should be all right. Should be all right. Okay, anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. And then when I come back from my 3-minute break, I am going to work on this because I need to get this done. And we'll have to test that. We'll have to set this up very specifically to actually test it. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what we will do. And then we'll see how long that takes, and then maybe we'll move on to something else. But anyway, give me 3 minutes. I'll be right back, and we will continue on. Okay, I'm back. Let's get this going. Do you have any artifacts that could like prevent the next damage source from reducing your health to 0 but breaks when it happens, or only once per battle? Yes, I have exactly that. I have an elixir of immortality, And the way that that works is when your health reaches 0, it heals you to half health, and then it becomes consumed, which means it can't be used again until after your next combat victory. So not the combat that it saved you in, but the next one after that that you win refills the elixir of immortality, and then you get it back. So yeah, we already have that. That's a good point, though. I'm going to need to test the interaction to make sure that it works. Anyway, so we've got this execution context. What I want to do is I want to do public func bool should end lifecycle func. So we're going to put that in there, and then we want the enhanced execution context with state. We're going to want to pass this over should end lifecycle func. We want to make sure that we duplicate that. So in the turn context here, this execution context, we're going to say execution context dot should end lifecycle func should end lifecycle. Okay, so then we go to execute abilities here, and what we're going to do is we're going to say if execution context should end lifecycle func dot invoke is equal to true, then we're going to break. But we also want to do that inside of here, inside of this individual abilities. So we're going to break it at the composed abilities level, but if the life cycle ends during the execution of these abilities in here, we're also going to break out of that. Now that does not account for the additional flag that I want to have, which is the, if the ability can continue executing. So let's go to my base card ability, and we're going to do something like this. Public virtual bool can execute post life cycle. We're just going to set it to true by default. And then what we're going to do for all of the abilities that actually deal damage, we're going to set these to, so public override bool can execute post life cycle false. And I'm just going to go through buff applicator, same deal, can execute post life cycle false. Buff immunity, that one's fine. Card buff listener, combat victory provider, conditional ability decorator, I think that's okay. Conditional value provider, copy ability, that's also okay. Damage, this one needs to be can't execute post life cycle false. Can't execute post life cycle false. Echo, this one cannot execute post life cycle. Fire, this one also cannot execute post life cycle. Generic transient state. Generic value provider, heal, this one cannot execute post life cycle. Holy cannot execute post life cycle. Let's see, poison cannot execute post life cycle. That one's fine, that one's fine. Reset cooldown. That one cannot execute post life cycle. These are fine. Shield, speed, status applicator. Am I not using this anywhere? Status applicator. Snailcat, okay. I guess we'll just mark that as can execute post lifecycle false. Status consumer. That one is false. Status provider, that one's fine. Swarm decorator. Yeah, this one is can execute post lifecycle false. Tag projector, that one's fine. Turn consumer. Yeah, we can just mark that one as false as well. Wanted level provider, okay. So really we didn't have to do that many. Oh, but I need to, no, it's fine actually. And I don't need to change any of the composed abilities. So I could mark composed abilities as having that as well. But what I did is I just went to the fundamental building block abilities and marked all of those as can execute post lifecycle to false. So now what I can do is I can go back to my base card and add that as an additional filter. Let's see. And actually, I can probably should execute ability. I don't want to change this, but this should execute ability should ideally support composed abilities as well. Basically what this is doing is this is essentially checking for a conditional ability decorator. Does a conditional ability decorator, this supports, yeah, so I could, in theory, decorate a composed ability. I guess I'm never doing that, though. But I should be using this should execute ability. I should be using this actually up here as well. So what I might do is I might take this should execute ability. I might break some stuff here, but that's okay. Execution context, execution context. So we're going to say if execution context dot should end lifecycle func dot invoke is equal to true, and not ability dot can execute post lifecycle, then we're going to return false. So if the lifecycle is ending and the ability is not permitted to execute post lifecycle, then we're going to return false. Otherwise, we're going to look for the decorator. Okay, so that simplifies that. And so what I can do now is in here. Oh, and I also want to change it to be able to use, oh wait, it can use any ability type. So I should be able to do this then. If not should execute ability, composed abilities I, then we're going to break. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing in here. Execution context, executing ability. Do we want to break or do we want to continue? No, we want to continue here. So we're going to skip the composed ability if it shouldn't be executed, and then we're going to skip this executing ability, but this is still going to iterate over every ability even after the life cycle is ended. And that's going to allow any ability that can execute post life cycle to execute. Okay, all right. Okay. Goodness gracious. I'm pretty certain I've done it correctly, but it's also probable that I haven't. Execution context there. Execution context there. Okay. Let me just check and make sure that certain things are working, that I didn't break anything. Okay, so the friar here, 8 turns for each adjacent ritual card. Cool. The frog has ritual, so if I do this, 7 turns, that's a ritual, that's a ritual as well? Interesting. Let's get rid of that. Oh wait. Maybe I was just being stupid. Okay. Anyway. So I do this. Does the rat have ritual as well? That is a ritual card. Okay. Let's get rid of the rat. Okay. Friar, 10 turns. So if I move this here, that's 9 turns. If I move this here, that's 8 turns. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. And if I do this, 7 turns. Perfect. All right. So that's all working correctly. So that's what I mostly wanted to check, if that's all right. And then, so we probably should just make sure that the abilities are working as we expect. And then we'll go all the way to the end. Okay. I'm expecting this to work mostly the same. I mean, the change that I made was not particularly invasive, so I'm pretty confident that it's going to be all right. Okay. So all of that was in service of fixing this bug here. And I need to set up the conditions so that we can actually test the bug exactly. Let me just make sure I didn't do anything too stupid here. Okay. Allow and disallow abilities from executing after life cycle is ended. Okay, so we sync that. Cool. All right, so now we have to actually test the condition that I was talking about. So what I'm gonna do is I need to, let's just use, we'll just do the skeleton warrior, I guess. So we look at the skeleton warrior, this does damage. And we're also going to do an ability builder dot heal 10. Okay. So we're going to do that. And then the training dummy, what we're going to do is we are going to have this do ability builder dot holy 100. Okay. And then the training dummy. So what this is going to do is this is going to apply 100 holy to itself. The skeleton is going to hit the enemy board. It's going, then my board is going to die. And then what I should see is that the heal will not execute because the life cycle is over. I think that's what's going to happen anyway. And I never added the skeleton to me. Cool, cool, cool. Skeleton 100. No, not 100. Warrior. Why did I put 100 there? I guess I was thinking about the holy being applied. It's actually going to apply 2 holy because there's 2 training dummies, but that's all right. So what I should see is that I should die. So I'm going to have 200 holy. I'm going to hit that. Boom. Look at that. No healing. Now, in order just to verify that this indeed works, what I'm going to do is I am going to essentially undo what I just did. So if I go to my base card, if I remove this should execute ability, if I get rid of this from consideration, so it's not going to look at the life cycle funk and not going to look at the post life cycle flag, what I should see is that I will die with 10 health. And if I see that, then I can be pretty confident that I've fixed the issue. So let's see. Yeah, look at that. So this is the bug that my friend was experiencing yesterday. So look, I died with 10 health, and that's because the life cycle ended, but there was nothing previously preventing the heal from being executed. And so now with this condition in place, if should end life cycle is true and the ability is not allowed to execute after the life cycle is finished, then we're just not going to execute that ability, which means that we're not going to end up with a non-zero health. Okay. So that bug was a lot easier to fix than I thought it would be, but yeah. So now we definitely don't want to end up in any situations where the player has a non-zero health and they're dead and then the player's like, what? So this should prevent that from happening. Yeah, that should prevent that from happening. But the benefit of the approach that I took here is, like I was talking about with the legendary abilities, this execution count provider is still allowed to tick up after the post life cycle, after the life cycle ends. So that means that if, as a response to this fire that's applied, the player takes damage that would kill him, this execution count provider is still allowed to tick up because it's basically trying to track how many times this fire has been applied. And so it still needs to go and do its thing. So anything that's just like data tracking, or anything that's like looking at historical data, or anything that's just like getting the current state of the board, that's totally fine because those aren't actually making any changes to the state. Except, I guess the execution count provider is, but it's not making any changes to the state, any state that would be relevant to like the player or enemy board dying. So those will be allowed to continue to execute because they're just harmless. They don't do anything. And in many cases, I actually do want them to execute because, like in this case, I still need the count to go up, even if the player dies like after this, but before this, I still want that count to go up. So I still want to allow that to go. So anyway, I think that's good. It's the new frog again. Yes, it's a new frog again. Yeah, I redrew the frog many times. Many times. Another day, another frog. Welcome back, Asymmetrics. Welcome, welcome. So I think that's fixed. So I actually don't need to keep any of these settings here. I guess I'll just remove these. Okay. We can mark that bug as done. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so we got through a good chunk of my to-do list here. Add animation, yeah. Make combat pause when alchemy is open during combat, and prevent combat start from being clicked when alchemy opened. Negative ability text seems wrong. Okay. So I guess I'll end the stream there. I gotta go eat some lunch, but got through a good chunk of everything that I wanted to get done, so that's good. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. We're getting very close to the playtest being available, at least for Patreon members to start. So if you're interested, please wishlist Alchemortis. You can also check out Patreon. Again, the playtest will be live for 1 week for Patreon members only, starting on Friday. And the playtest will be available to everyone and anyone who wants to try it for a week after that. So, yeah. Just keep an eye out for all that stuff. Join the Discord to be notified when all that stuff goes live. I would very much appreciate that. And what else? I think that's it. So hopefully you guys like this new version of the game, this new playtest. I think it's better than the previous playtests, but there's still a lot of work to go to do. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, it's looking good. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Appreciate the support, and keep an eye on that Discord for when I stream again. It may be this afternoon or it may be tomorrow. We'll see. Anyway, take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next one, and bye-bye.